I am so excited for the tutorial today. I can hardly stand it. You are in for a treat with this painting, and the best part is that it is so simple, anyone can do it. Now, really quickly, before we get into the painting though, I mentioned a while ago that I was working on a new project, a 12-month subscription box collaboration with Craftamo. Many of you have been asking for some updates on the progress of this, and I'm excited to share that the 24 brush samples and my 48 hand-selected paint colors just arrived for me to test out. It's been quite the process to get to this point, and I cannot wait to test these out and tweak them for the final project. However, if you're not interested in this part, then go ahead and skip to the painting demonstration instead. But for a bit of a sneak peek, I have 12 round brushes going all the way from 1 to 12. And you may be wondering if there are going to be duplicates of some of these from my Craftamo set. And they actually are slightly different. Here's the number 10 to compare, and you can see that I've made these new ones just slightly longer in the belly. I think the only brush that is exactly the same is probably the little number 1 rigger. Then I also have some fun shapes and sizes in here. I've got 4 filbert brushes, which will be super fun to play with, 3 angle brushes, big, medium, and small. The angle brush from my last set is actually sort of sized between these two, so even this one is going to be slightly different. Then for something new and fun, in fact, these are starting to become some of my new favorite brushes. These are cat's tongue brushes. I have 2 of them, more on the small side of things, but I am really loving these. I have also included a dagger brush in here as well, which is also exciting. And last but not least, 2 rigger brushes. Anyway, I'm super excited about these. I can't wait to put them all to the test. And for a quick sneak peek of some of the paint colors I picked out, here is the list of my test color sample chart that I've just done. I think we'll be able to paint some really pretty things with these. Okay, enough of that. Let's move on to the awesome painting for the day. Now, I do have a very simple sketch on my paper, but honestly, this painting could totally be done very easily free-handed if you'd rather. Let me pull out this darker version and I'll show you what I've got going on my painting really quick. And really, this is a more detailed drawing than it needs to be. All you really need is some thin stem lines for where you want the wheatgrass to go. You can draw the grains onto the stems if you want, or you can even draw where you want some little grasses to go at the bottom of the page. And even though I have the thin spikes on this darker version, I don't know what they're called, just these little lines that come off of the grains, I didn't actually draw them on my watercolor paper. I'm just going to play that by ear in a free-handed manner later. So really, you can draw as much or as little or even nothing, whatever you want or you're comfortable with. And I will have this outline available in my Etsy shop if that would be helpful, and then you can just trace on whatever you want using a light table or even just a well-lit window in your house. I will leave a link for that, as well as links and information to any of the other products you see me using today, and I'll list those in the description of this video. All right, now besides watercolor paper, we also need watercolor paints, a paper towel, and some clean water. I definitely recommend taping your paper down with artist tape, not only to help prevent some of the warping, but it also leaves a really neat white border around the edges, which looks really cool in the end. Because we will be painting a background wash clear to the edges, you really want to make sure that your tape is down nice and tight, especially in the corners so that the paint doesn't leak through. For the brushes today, I'll use a number 10 round for the background wash, the number 6 for the wheat grains, the angle for the grasses, and the number 1 rigger for the thin lines and stems. And again, I'll leave a link for these brushes in the description of this video if you're interested. Now, right in the very center of the page, I plan to create an awesome focal point using a sun in the background. So there's a couple of ways we can mask this off to make painting the background wash a little bit easier. I'm going to try something a little bit crazy. I've only done this once before, but it worked good then, so I'm going to try it again today. I'm actually just going to use some contact paper that you can cover shelving your drawers with. I'll just cut out a small square here, then using a circle template like the bottom of this cup, I'll trace a nice perfect circle on here and cut it out. Now, if you don't dare risk doing this, you can just draw your circle onto the paper and mask it off with some masking fluid instead, or you can even just try to paint around the sun. It just takes a little bit more time and maybe a little bit more tedious that way. I'm hoping this contact paper will just leave me with a perfectly masked off sun in the end. Now, before we can mask off the sun though, I'm actually going to add just a touch of light yellow to it to emphasize the glowy effect. I'll try some azo yellow that's a little bit watered down so that it's lighter in value. We still want it to stand out from the background colors. And I'm actually going to overlap the edges of the circle just a little bit, just so I can make sure all the areas around the sun are covered after I mask it off. Now we need that to dry completely before we mask it off, so you can use a hairdryer to speed up the process if you want, but while we wait, let's go ahead and get our background colors ready. We're going to use some warm and bright yellows, reds, and oranges for this. I'll start with a little bit of Gamboge. I love this color, I use it all the time. Then down here, I'll mix up kind of a red-orange color by mixing some Gamboge with cadmium red. And lastly, for a nice warm orange, I'll take some cadmium orange and mix it also with a touch of Gamboge. Using some Gamboge in all of these is really going to tie the colors together, and this is going to blend and mix them very nicely once as we get them on the page. Whoops, my yellow and red are seeping into each other here. I'll just block that off really quick. All right, now that the yellow on the sun is fully dry, I'll go ahead and put on my contact paper. I think the hardest part is getting the back off of this. And actually, now that I'm thinking about it, this may actually be a peel and stick wallpaper, but it's still the same basic concept. I'll just make sure that this is sealed down nice and tight, and then I'll take the large number 10 round and start applying water to the entire area of the paper so that it's nice and wet. This will really help the colors blend together easily, and it will help keep everything wet a little longer so that we can play around with it a little bit. Now that the area is all wet, we can start placing in the colors. Let's start with the Gamboge right around the sun first, maybe spreading it even up nearer towards the top of the page. I kind of plan to have the top half a little bit lighter in value than the bottom half. That's a good start, but I think I'll even take a little bit more concentrated Gamboge and add that in here and there too. I'm really wanting the colors to be very bright and vibrant so this painting really pops. Next up, let's start throwing in some of the orange color. I'll blend that into the yellow and then probably take the color clear up to the top edge of the page to really fill it out. Again, add in more color if you need to keep it bright and vibrant, and it's okay if it's not all smooth and perfect too. As the sky, there may be the look of clouds back there, and we will be painting the wheatgrass over the top, which will become the focal point to this piece. Now that I've got that orange surrounding the yellow on the page, let's add in some red color in here, blending it into the orange, and I'm just going to put this red on the bottom area, filling out the rest of the page. Now, you can let this air dry if you want. I'm not going to be that patient today, so I will use a hair dryer. I also find that the hot air and the quicker drying time sort of helps with the warping a little bit. All right, once as the background is dry, we can start adding in the grass at the base of the page. Using the angle brush, I'll just freshen up this color on my tray that is just a mixture of burnt umber and ivory black. I'm going to work my way from lighter valued grass to darker, so I'll water down a little bit of this here for a lighter brown. Then to paint in the grass blade, I'll use the longer point of the brush at the starting point, then pull up and turn the brush slightly to the broad side to make the stroke thick in the center. Then I'll turn the brush again and finish it off with a point using the back end or shorter part of the brush. Now you can do this either coming from the bottom and moving up, or starting higher on the page and then pulling it down. And I actually might just try something a little bit crazy here. I'm not sure if this is going to work, but I want to try a two-toned look with this grass. So let's try loading the brush with the brown color first, and then maybe adding in a little bit of red color on the top part or edge of the bristles. And let's see what happens. I actually think that looks really neat. It creates a sort of glowy look at the top of the grass where that red color is. Although I don't think my camera is showing it like I can see it in person. So if you want to give this a try, then you can, or you can just use the solid brown color, just whatever you like or whatever you prefer. At this point, just go ahead and add in a few more of the grass blades, however many you want. I think I end up with about 14-ish. And keep in mind to gradually make the value of them a little bit darker and a little bit darker, and also more concentrated as you go. This is just going to create some depth to the piece by making some of them look farther away than others. I hope you're enjoying this tutorial so far. This is going to be such a striking piece when we're done, and it's really not too hard to do. If you are enjoying my painting and teaching style, I hope you'll subscribe if you haven't already so you don't miss out on any of my new and upcoming weekly tutorials. All right, great job. It's time to paint in the wheat next. And even though you can't see that two-tone color in my grass very good on this camera, I really like the subtle effect that it's creating. So I actually think I'm going to try something similar on the grains of wheat. I'll mix up a little bit of cadmium orange and cadmium red together for this accent color. Then using the number 6 round, I'll take some of that brown color and start painting in the grass on the stalk. I can pretty much just do these in one stroke, moving from one side to the other, painting in the center line of the stalks as I move down. Then while the paint is still a little bit wet, I'll take some of that orange-red color and add that into the tip areas of some of the grains just to give it that glowy look. Again, you may not be able to see this very well on camera, but I'm going to focus this red color mostly on the side that is the closest to the sun. So in this case, it's mostly on the right side. Now that the top part is done, I'll switch over to the rigger brush and take some of this reddish brown or orangey colored paint and add in some nice thin lines connecting to and coming out from the grains of wheat. Now these don't need to be super dark. A subtle hint of them is good enough. Now using the rigger, let's paint the bottom part of the stalk. I'll start the line out with some brown, Then about halfway through, I'll switch over to some of that reddish orange color. Then when I get closer to the bottom, I'll add in the dark brown again. This is going to add that subtle hint of red that adds that glowy look to the silhouette. Now I'm just going to go ahead and do the same thing on the rest of the wheat stalks in the background. Okay, let's finish this painting up by now taking off the contact paper off of the sun and painting in the focal point area to this piece. Hopefully this works. Cross your fingers. All right, that actually turned out really good. A little bit of a gamble, but I think it paid off. Now, I'm actually going to paint this wheat stalk in the same way as I've been doing, but I am going to be doing this a little bit bigger in size and maybe a little bit heavier on the red color. I really plan to emphasize that red color and paint it in a little bit more heavy on the grains of wheat that overlap right over the sun. This is going to create a really neat focal point, and it makes the glowy effect stand out even more. And my friends, that is all there is to this piece. It really turned out very striking and really wasn't hard to do. And once as you take the tape off, the white border around the edge really just sets the whole thing off very nicely. I'm so glad you joined me today. I hope you had some fun and maybe even learned something new. If you did enjoy this tutorial, I hope you'll consider subscribing to my channel so I can continue to help you discover your artistic side.